Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast. I am your co-host, Kathy Groover.
And I'm Jason Mefford. We're excited to be back with you for another episode. Is everybody excited?
I'm excited.
You're excited?
I can hear everybody. Yeah, no, I can totally hear that they're excited.
You can totally hear them in the background.
Oh, yeah. They're very excited. I'm excited because I'm in my new home.
I know. It's a new background for you.
I know.
I know. You're loving the new home, aren't you?
I am loving the new home. I would take everyone on a tour of the new home, but I don't feel like standing up. So,
all right. Well, we'll leave that to a different episode, maybe.
We'll leave that to the home tour
Jason
episode.
And Kathy walking.
Well, A Walk in the Woods was a very, very good play. So we could have like a walk in my loft.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's a really short walk. Yes. So speaking about moving, moving and new homes and new things, today we're going to talk about evolution. Now, before you freak out and say, I'm a creationist, that's not the kind of evolution we're talking about. We're talking about the kind of evolution of moving forward, of shifting perspectives and views, and how as we get older and evolve and grow in ourselves, we have different priorities, we have different principles, and all these things tend to shift over time, and not getting locked in that hamster wheel of, well, that's how I did it before, kind of thing. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, I think it sounds great because, like I said, I've actually used the hamster wheel. I've got a picture of it that a kind of stock photo that I bought that I use in a lot of my presentations and trainings because, you know, I feel like myself, I get in that and I see a lot of people doing that. We get on that little hamster wheel and we're just running. Or we're kind of in a rut. We're in a rut on a hamster wheel. Ooh, I know, right? And we think we're going to get out of it if we go faster and faster and faster, and we don't always.
Yeah.
And you know, life does change. And when life changes, that means, you know, a lot of times we end up needing to change as well. So yeah, excited to talk about this because I know you've gone through some changes. I've gone through some changes this last year. So let's talk about it because I'm guessing a lot of other people are going through changes as well.
Yeah. And this is also pretty good timing because, you know, we've entered a new year. We're now in 2019, which I'm not sure how that happened. I thought it was like 1999, just a couple seconds ago.
I know.
We need a whole new
like
song.
It's 1999. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah. So talk about evolution. That was 20 years ago. Oh my God.
We're getting old, aren't we?
No.
No.
What is this we shit? We're not getting old. That's up to you are. That's getting old. I'm youthing. I just had a birthday. I'm a January birthday. So, evolution. So as we get older, our priorities change. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because I was telling my relationship just recently ended, and a friend of mine messaged me on Facebook, and he goes, no, you have the perfect life. You can't get divorced, blah, 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 blah. And he went off about how, you know, what kind of example am I setting if me, the relationship expert, and I'm like, I don't remember ever saying I was a relationship expert, but he was just almost heartbroken about, oh no, we all like looked up to you as having this like perfect life and now there's this flaw. And I'm like, okay, but as we grow and evolve, we have different priorities. We have different things that we want to have in our lives. We have different, you know, things that we would put up with at 20, we're not going to deal with at 40 or 50 or same thing in business, same thing in interpersonal relationships. We grow and change and evolve hopefully as the situation does, because I see so many people still stuck in this sort of, you know, I'm 25 mentality and now they're 50 and they're not evolving and changing. They're not growing with things as they alter, and it's holding them back. It's sticking. They're stuck in this space. So what do we do to get out of that? You know, how do we grow and evolve along with this changing circumstances?
Well, I think that's a big question, right? Because like you said, you know, we're not 25 anymore. And, you know, like you said, relationships, sometimes we change. I mean, as people, you know, we're still practically the same person, but as we gain age, right? As we add age to ourselves, we add experience to ourselves, we do become slightly different people. Our priorities might end up changing, you know, and especially when you kind of hit midlife, right? I mean, I never thought of myself as being midlife, but oh my gosh, I'm midlife, right? I have to, for those that are watching on the video, right? I'm wearing contacts now.
I was just saying, I saw you weren't wearing glasses.
I used to wear contacts all the time, but I switched to glasses until I needed these stupid cheaters to start reading with now, and so decided I need to switch to glasses, right? Because I can't read my phone. So, and I got to read my phone. So, but that's again, I mean, that's a little tiny thing, right? But that's again something that, as I've aged and evolved, my eyesight has changed or evolved, right? Now, the question was, how do we get out of this, or how do we move forward? Well, I could have been like a little child, and I could have just stomped my feet and screamed and said, damn it, I'm not old, I don't need reading glasses, and I could keep, moving the thing back and forth, right? Which doesn't make any sense.
And I don't know why they make that face. Because that doesn't actually help.
The face doesn't help?
No. No, it's just what we've done.
Yeah, so it's we can wallow in it, and or we can stay in that position, or we can just make a change.
Yeah. Or we resist it. And I see so many people, a specific example with you talking about the glasses, they cannot hear. They desperately need a hearing aid. They can't participate in conversations. They don't know what you're saying. And they're like, that means I'm old. And I'm thinking, I have a client whose son at 3 needed hearing aids. We have these misconceptions of that means we're old. Someone's like, I have gray hair. That means I'm old. I was fully gray at 19, 20. Yeah. So that to me is not aging. To me, we have to change and evolve with these things. And I just finished my NLP course, which was so great. And in the NLP book, the guy tells a story about how you interact with people and how you talk to people. And they were talking to this waitress. This was the author of the book. And they said, what do you do when you're not waiting tables? And she goes, I really want to go back to nursing school. And they said, okay, well, why don't you? And she said, well, it's a 5-year program. And that means I'll be 38 by the time I finish. And the guy said, okay, so if you don't go to nursing school, what's going to happen in 5 years? She said, I'll be 38. They go, yeah, but without the degree.
Exactly.
So you'll either be 38 with the degree or 38 without the degree. And she kind of went, oh my God. And the next time they came in for their coffee, she had signed up for class. It was just about to start. And, she ended up in this nursing program. Time is going to move forward anyway, regardless of what you're doing. That's just sort of how it works, at least our perception of it. So why are we not taking those steps? Why are we not moving forward into that future and adapting to that change?
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes, this kind of goes back to, because another thing I've been thinking on and kind of working through kind of a model for helping to teach people is this concept of fear, think, do. Okay, and so we'll get into this in more detail, I'm sure, probably in a future episode as I develop this a little bit more. But the reason why it's fear, think, do is because, again, we've talked before about the critter brain kind of thing. The back of our brain, the amygdala, that's the one that is the fight or flight. That is the one where feeling kind of comes from, and that's the one that engages first. So you feel something, and then it takes those 6 or 7 seconds for the, prefrontal cortex to kick in, where you think at that point, and then it allows you the opportunity to actually do something, right? And so the problem is if we get stuck in that fear, and we never get to really the thinking side of it and allow that to take over and go, oh, just like this girl, in the restaurant. Well, she had this fear of, oh my gosh, it's going to be 5 years of my life.
Right.
Okay. She didn't move to the thinking phase until the author, came in and said, well, in 5 years, you're still going to be 38, but without a degree. And she goes, oh
yeah.
Right. So now she's in that thinking phase to where she can then actually do something.
Which is then the taking action.
The taking action.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, if we're that little hamster on the wheel, you got to take action. You got to jump off the wheel, or else you're just going to stay exactly where you are.
Well, and it's also that whole, since we do so many episodes about animals, it's that elephant, it grows up tied to that stake on this teeny little string. The elephant could easily break off that string, but it's so used to being tied there. Or, the dog with the fence, you take the fence down and it still stands there right at the edge because it doesn't think it can go further than that. And I think so often we do that to ourselves. We limit ourselves. And it was interesting, I was talking to a guy friend of mine, and he's in the process of getting out of his marriage, and they were in therapy, and he said, if things don't change, I'm leaving. And she said, so you'd rather leave and be alone than be with me? And it's like, well, why is that the only choice? But it's that limited thinking. In her mind, it's either stay with this guy or I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. And she was projecting that onto him of what, so you'd rather leave me and be alone than stay? And he said, no, maybe I leave and I'm happy alone, or maybe I leave and I meet somebody else. And she hadn't even considered that possibility. We're mid to late 40s. It's not like we're 90 and never going to meet another person. And even then at 90, you can meet somebody.
Well, yeah, people do all the time.
Oh my God. I have clients who have, left long-term relationships in their 60s, and they're like, oh my God, I'm never going to meet somebody. She's happier than I've ever seen her. She met a guy on Match.com. They're moving in together. They're like perfect for each other to the extent that you can be. But there's always possibilities and there's always opportunities if you look for them and if you are willing to change, evolve, and grow. And sometimes we do get into that, I'm too old to start something new. We all have moments where we feel like that, but it's a matter of moving past that. And I hear people all the time say, oh, I couldn't do that. I could never do that. Well, what would it look like if you could? What would it look like if you could do that? And I was counseling a woman yesterday. She lost a son to cancer in his early 30s. She's still devastated. We're pushing 2 years now, and she's still not moving past that. I don't know what it's like to lose a child. I can't even imagine. But she's still stuck in such grief. And she said, I just feel so alone, and I feel so desperate, and I feel so needy. And she just went through all these horrible things that she felt. And she goes, I'm just so in grief. And I said, well, what would it feel like if you weren't in grief? She just kind of looked at me. And I said, well, what would that look like? She goes, well, I'd be content. I said, okay, well, what does that look like? And we went through this whole thing of, me showing her that there were these options of you don't have to stay stuck in that grief. I think we all grieve in different ways and different times. And it seems like she's ready to move past that. So what does that look like? And she kept telling me things she didn't want. She kept telling me things that, well, I don't want to feel alone. I don't want to feel needy. I'm like, okay, but what do you want to feel? And she kept going, oh yeah. So it's just a matter of shifting that perspective and shifting that thinking and moving forward into something, moving towards something. Are you a moving towards person, or are you moving an away person? I'm a moving towards something. A lot of people move away. They move away from the bad thing. I move towards the good thing. And sometimes when we look at ourselves and we analyze those things of, how do I think? How do I function in this world, in this situation? Then we can clarify things and step off that wheel, get off that post, and move forward. It's a matter of self-analysis.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because as you were sharing that story, what did she keep saying? I feel, I feel, I feel, I feel. Right? She never got past the feeling stage to where she was actually thinking. And I think there's kind of a golden tip for people to take away is exactly the question that you asked her. And what was that again?
Which one? How do you want to feel instead?
Yeah,
or
instead, or what would it look like?
Yeah. There we go.
If it was something else.
Yeah.
Because like you said, and we talked about this a lot. I mean, what you put in your brain, what you focus on is what you see.
Yes.
So again, she's been focused for 2 years on what she doesn't want to have happen. Right? As opposed to focusing on what she does want to have happen.
Yeah.
And then go towards that.
Yeah.
And so again, I think as we age, as we become middle-aged, that our priorities shift, and we realize that maybe some of those things that we're doing, maybe there's no longer a congruency or alignment, right? In what we're actually doing versus what we want to be or do or have before we kick out of this world.
Right.
And sometimes that can be pretty scary, to get outside of our comfort zone because like you said, this other friend, we think that it's an either or option.
Right.
Stay in the marriage or be miserable.
Or be alone and be alone and miserable.
And rarely is a decision either or, A or B. right? But a lot of times we get taught to that and we kind of bring it down to two particular choices.
Right.
But we've got to realize there's multiple choices that are out there.
Right.
And it's not even four like on a multiple choice test. There's like an infinite number of ways that you can do.
Oh, that's very confusing. Yeah, I'm glad the SATs weren't like that. Well, and then that's, I think, sometimes an issue is people have so many choices. They sit frozen in those because they don't know what they want to do. And then someone comes in and introduces another option or two, and they go, oh my God, and it just becomes so overwhelming for them. It's when you walk into the ice cream store and there's 700 flavors and you just go, vanilla, I don't know. Do you step out of your comfort zone and try peach blast, or do you just get vanilla because that's what you always get? And to me, one of the things that's so exciting about getting older and growing and evolving is that opportunity to try different things. I love wine. I'm a total wine person. And I was talking to a wine friend of mine, and I said, I'm going to head over to Bevmo. What should I get? And he said, have you done any other Spanish wines? He said, that's what I default to when I go to Bevmo. I just pick one of the Spanish wines I've not had before. It's a smaller section. It's a good section. I was like, what a great idea. So my treat for myself now is once a week, I walk next door to Bevmo and I find one of the Spanish wines that I've not tried yet. I read the little thing to see if it seems appealing to me. I pull it off the shelf, and every week I try a new wine. And I'm taking notes on it. And what I really want to just default to is my Sauvignon Blanc. That's what I always order. That's what I get all the time. And I realized, no, I've tried so many Sauvignon Blancs, and that's a fun game too of trying different versions of the same thing. Right. But I also want to step out of that. So I've been trying more reds. I've been trying more Spanish wines. I went to the French section the other day. To me, half the fun of having all these choices is experimenting with them. And I'm not going to get through the entire store. We call that risky drinking. But next episode we'll be like, it's the red wine.
Yeah, this is our drunk episode.
Oh, we have to do drunk Fire and Earth podcast, drunk history.
Like drunk history.
Oh, I love drunk history. Oh my God, it'll take some editing on my part, but yeah. Yeah, we need to do an episode a little tipsy. That would be hilarious. Okay, we'll make it a nighttime one because I'm not doing that at 8 a.m. That's not going to work. But half the fun is, to walk into the store with these literally probably millions of choices, or at least hundreds of thousands of choices of things to try, and going, I look at it as exciting, where other people go, oh, okay, this is a lot. This is overwhelming. So you have to shift your focus, shift your perspective on that. And as the opportunities around you grow, try something different, try something new, get out of your comfort zone. It's that go for it thing that we talk about all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of an important way, for us to kind of wrap up maybe talking about this is, kind of the action steps that people can take, because like we said, as we evolve and as we go throughout life, I think especially as we age, a lot of times we feel boring, right? Because we have a job. We get up at a certain time, we have a job. We come home. We have, kind of the same thing for dinner most of the time, or we go to the same restaurants, or we drink the same wine all the time. And so if you feel like your life is boring and you want to evolve or you want to move, one simple thing you can do is actually just try something different. I remember it was an interview with the guy. He said, I never give myself more than 20 seconds to decide what I'm going to order on the menu. And it's like, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you don't like it and you never order it again.
Right.
And so it's like with your wine, you might find one and again, you take notes and it's like, never buy that one again. Take a picture. I
had one of those.
It's on the do not rebuy list. But, again, worst thing that happened, okay, you spent a little bit of money on something that you didn't get the full value out of, but now and you've had a different experience.
And I would say it makes us a fuller, richer person, because now I can speak to other things. I can talk about something more than, hey, I had this great Sauvignon Blanc. And then I get to share that with other people, because I have some clients who, when they come in, we share a little bit of wine before they go. So it's the more we know and the more we get into that personal evolution and expansion and expanding ourselves, expanding our consciousness, expanding our breadth of knowledge, expanding our tools and techniques, the more we can share that with others, and then the more value we can be, no matter what our field is. I told someone the other day, I said, you see all these paintings up in my office? She goes, yeah. And I said, the majorities I hung with push pins and the back of the tape dispenser. because it was the only tool I had. I said, and no one would know that unless I told them. The paintings are still hanging, but that was the only tool I had at that time. I could have been so much more efficient and more, productive had I had, a hammer and some nails. We work with what we're given, but we also evolve and grow in those situations so that we can adapt and expand and then share all that with other people so that they can adapt and expand.
Exactly. So, I guess again, kind of as a recap, right? So as we're evolving or moving forward, we may want to do things different, right? I mean, if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not really happy, I feel boring, I feel like I'm in a rut, it's time again to get through that fear, feel, think, and actually do something sort of cycle. And, try something else. Order something different off the menu that you've never had before. Buy a new kind of wine that you've never had. Read a book on a genre that you have never read before.
Yeah.
I did that over my vacation. I mean, I usually read kind of these different novels, and I'd never read a Hunter Thomas book. So I bought Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas on the trip, and so that was something different. That's not normally what I read, because most of what I read is, business and psychology, some, self-improvement kind of stuff. But I do enjoy those different genres, and actually read a couple of different books like that as well.
Good for you.
Over my vacation. So, do some things that are a little bit different, add a little spice to your life, if you will, because we are evolving as individuals, and we just need to get out there and do it. I mean, get past the fear, because most of these little things, it's no big deal if it sucks.
Yeah.
If whatever you had for that bottle of wine you bought, or the meal that you had at the restaurant, if you didn't like it, not really that big a deal.
Yeah.
And that's the worst that can happen. The best is you go, oh my gosh, I found my new favorite wine.
Yeah. And then you can share that with others. Very cool. But yes, go forth, evolve, grow, expand your consciousness, expand your tools, expand your reach, and then let us know how we can help you do that. I'm Kathy Groover, and I can be reached at kathygroover.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on a future episode of the Fire and Earth podcast.
See you next time.
See ya.